Hey everybody, today I'm going to show you how to create a survey in your free Qualtrics account. From the Projects tab or the Catalog tab, you can press Create Project. Click the Create Project button in your Projects tab. It's going to take you to the catalog anyways. From here, you can create a from scratch survey. I'll do another video at another point going over how to do some of these project templates as well, like a customer satisfaction survey or a relationship NPS. But for now, we're going to do a from scratch survey. I'm going to call this test. I'm not going to add it from like an upload or anything like that. All right, so first we're going to start off by going over the Survey Builder tab, which is this first tab here. In the Survey Builder tab, a couple things to note are the Tools button. You can auto number your questions, generate test responses, and export your survey to Word, as well as go and look at old versions of your survey, as well as do a review for like spell checking, search and replace, or stripping formatting. Next, the Preview button allows you to preview survey. It just opens another tab here in your window that will pull up your survey so you can preview what it's going to look like and go through the different routes of your survey if you have different logic. In the Publish button here, this will allow you to publish your survey so it is active. If you haven't published your survey and you try to send it out to people, then they will not be able to use it. And if you make changes to your survey and don't publish it, people won't see the most up-to-date version. Now, let's talk about the multiple choice question first. Whenever you've selected a question or a block of questions, you'll notice this panel here on the left changes. Right now, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the multiple choice options. First off, there's two different answer types. There's one answer or multiple answer select. Multiple answer select allows them to select more than one option for like select all the apply options, for example. Next, we have a number choices. Number choices allow you to choose how many questions you have. You can also simply point and click. Qualtrics is very just point and click oriented, and press enter. It'll create new options. One of my favorite features here on a multiple choice question is the use suggested choices. This comes with an array of different pre-made scales like agreeability, satisfaction, and it also has different things here at the bottom like education level, age groups, income for US dollars and euros, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. So you don't have to like create your own questions. Essentially, they're pre-built. Next, I have a reverse order. If I don't like it from top to bottom like this, I can make it from top to bottom like this. So it just reverses the order of the options you have added to it. You got your formats. In a satisfaction question, obviously you probably want a list. But if you had a drop down for like maybe you're a school and you're trying to have someone select the course that they're in, you could create a drop down menu and let them choose from a drop down menu. There's also select box, very old school. I don't suggest using this format. Next, if you're on a list, you can do a few different things. You can go vertical. I really like horizontal for if someone's on a desktop. If they're on a mobile device, it'll automatically revert to vertical, but you don't have to worry about that. It will do it on its own. And then label position allows you to choose if you want the choice like this or like this. Definitely choose vertical. It looks much, much better. And then later we're going to go over the branding of the survey. And there's some different things there that we can hide the dots and just make them click on the words instead. It looks really good. Next, we have response requirements. Whenever you see response requirements, this means we're going to add requirements for force response or request response. Force response means they can't continue forward in the survey without answering the question. Request response is going to ask them if they want to answer it, and if they don't, it will let them go forward. Next, we have validation. You can do some custom validation here. On some other question types, we'll go over some different levels of validation. This one, if I had like a multi-answer select and they could select more than one option of like, what's your favorite fruit, for example, we could add some validation here that says they need to select between, 1 in 3 fruits, for example. Next, we have question behavior. You can add display logic to questions that basically says, like, hey, if on another question they selected a certain option, then show this question. If not, it won't show. You can also use embedded data, which would be like contact information on the contact. So if they're this ethnicity, show this question, for example. Next, we have skip logic. I don't use skip logic all that often. Display logic and then branching logic in your survey flow, which we'll get here in a little bit, is a little bit better, easier option for you. Skip logic basically allows you to say, hey, if they select a certain option, skip to the end of survey or the end of a block, or if you have more than one block, skip to a certain block. Carry forward choices is pretty cool. Let's say you had your favorite fruits here and you have them select 3 of their 10 favorite fruits. And then on the next question, you could carry forward their answers from that question or another question in your survey. And you could say, hey, show me all the selected choices they had. And then you could have them choose their favorite of those 3 that they had selected, for example. Next, we have choice randomization. Choice randomization allows you to change the order. So if you had your 10 favorite fruit, you could say, hey, let's display them in a random order. So that way there's not a bias of options at the top, for example. People aren't just clicking the top options all the time. Next, we have something called recode values. This is extremely important for when you go to analyze your data. So for the people who are going to analyze, they're going to thank you if you do this correct. This is for behind the scenes. You have your question response options, but if someone wants like a top box, bottom box score or a average score, for example, of 1 to 5 here, you have to have recode values. Okay. You can, if they're not in the right order, sometimes they're not when you create the survey questions. Sometimes they'll just be some random numbers. So be careful there. If you're going to use some kind of average or something like that, always make sure your numbers are correct, please. Next, let's go over a text entry question type. There's really 3 options here, or 4 options. The one that you're going to do most of the time is an essay text box, and it's because you're going to have someone leave open-ended feedback. And if you do, it allows you to change the size of the box, and it's the best user experience because if the user needs more space to write, they can also adjust the size of the box. You can also add validation to these, like maximum length or character range. You could say, hey, minimum's 1 character and the maximum is like 1,000 characters. You can also do a single line if you're trying to do like have someone type in a certain type of content, like an email address. It'll confirm that it's like in the correct format with like a domain and everything like that. You could do like a U.S. phone number, make sure it's in the U.S. phone number format, or make sure they're typing in a valid like postal code or a U.S. state, for example. Or if you're having them type in a date, make sure it's a certain format. Next question type here is going to be the text graphic. This is very important for like introductions or headers at the top of pages, different things like that. You can always click on this rich content editor, and this goes for any question type. When you click on that, it allows you to format your question from centering, alignment, to bolding things or changing the font size. If you're really good at like HTML, you can also click on this source here and do HTML. It looks like, unfortunately, on a free account, though, you cannot use this. That would be for paid plans only. Next, you could pipe text in. This allows you to dynamically pull in information like the way they answered a certain question beforehand or information from their contact information. Next, we have a matrix table question. This is a very common question for key driver type questions. So on this one, you can have a few different types of matrix. Most common is going to be Likert because you might have your suggested scale points of satisfaction like we had before. And then they can rate like timeliness or wait time. Maybe they're waiting friendliness. And maybe they're waiting something like the product that they got, product satisfaction maybe. And you can do also more statements if you need to. I don't suggest normally putting more than about 7 of these in here. Might overwhelm people, especially on the satisfaction survey. If you're doing some kind of product testing, you could obviously do more. If you do more than maybe 4 options, I highly suggest coming down here into this section and doing position text or repeat headers. So as they scroll down on the page, they can see the options over and over again as they go through the survey question. Another type that you might do, there's a few others. There's bipolar question type. They can say, you can have different options here, like wait time, maybe it's long wait, short wait, right? And they can choose closer to what option that they had. Got rank order, which allows them to do some different stuff. I wouldn't suggest doing rank orders on this. There's a different type of question for that. It's a little bit better. Constant sum allows them to type numbers in these boxes here that then will total out over here. This total number is not going to do anything for you, though. Be careful with that. It's not going to spit out a number for you in your data. You would have to do some math equations in your survey flow in order to get those to pop out. And then text entry just allows them to insert text here in these different boxes. And max diff allows you to do a max diff type of a survey question here. Now, if you do this, I really don't suggest doing a max diff question type in a matrix table because it's not going to spit out max diff results like if you were doing a guided max diff project. All right, so let's go ahead and go to our next question type. Let's go to the slider question type. Let's start with a new one. So a slider question type allows you to do, just like a matrix table, different questions within it that they can then slide and choose a certain option. There's sliders, there's bars, and there's stars. Stars is a pretty popular option. It's going to spit out a number on the back end and say they select this first one, it's going to be a 2 rating. You can do different star interactions. There's discrete, half step, and continuous. And you can add requirements and carry forward or display logic as well as you could to other question types. Next, we have a form field. This is really where people oftentimes will collect information. If you're trying to create a panel, for example, you can do first name, last name, email, for example. And they can provide their information. If you want to confirm it's an email address, just like in your text entry question, you can add validation to validate that it is a valid email address, for example. They won't see that, but when they try to type something in that's not an email, it won't let them continue forward. It'll say, hey, please provide a valid email address. And lastly, we have side-by-side questions. This one isn't used super often, but some researchers will use this. You can change the column names here. You can choose different answers. You could even, instead of having answers side by side there, you could make it like a drop-down list of options as well. And then these could be like a text entry, for example, or multi-answer select. Okay, and maybe you only have one of these. Now that we've gone through how to build survey questions, let's go ahead and move on to your survey flow tab. In the survey flow tab, you can, if you have multiple blocks of questions, let's say I had another one down here, I added another block. By the way, if you need page breaks, you can click between these things here, these questions, and add page breaks. Now, the blocks will also be page break based, but it also allows you to do things between them, like run web service tasks, do branching logic, or add special embedded data fields like math equations on like those constant sum type questions, for example. Branch logic is used like this. If you had a question that says, hey, maybe on question 1, if they selected extremely dissatisfied, then let's add an end of survey element and just end the survey. We don't want them to continue forward in the survey beyond block that default 6 questions in the block. Maybe you have an entire other part of the survey here that you're trying to gather more information on. You could also add other things in here, like a embedded data field that says like they are unhappy, and then might make it yes. Or add them, it may be based on the way they answer certain questions. You have some branch logic here, and we're going to set some like certain groups of people, and you could say group 1, for example. If you need to move anything around here, you can click on the move button and drag it around. I think it's a lot easier to just click on the object. It'll highlight in blue, and then use your arrow keys on your keyboard to move it around. Once you've done making your changes here, you can press apply. Another really important one to note is the randomizer. Randomizer allows you to add different blocks into it, and then you could say maybe you have like 4 different blocks of questions, and you want to randomly present these blocks to people and say that you only want them to see 2 of those 4 blocks. You could add those underneath this randomizer here, and it would only show 2 of those 4 blocks to people. All right, there's your basic overview of survey flow. Let's now talk about the look and feel page. This themes page here, there's some default themes you can select from that look pretty nice. I will do a whole training on how to create themes at another point in time. That way you could have your own theme here as well that you could choose from over and over again. On the layouts here, I am not a fan of a simple layout. There's some restrictions behind it. There's certain things you can't do with the simple theme, and that's why I don't like it. For basic survey, though, it looks pretty good. I prefer the classic look. I think it looks really good. General allows you to add next button and back buttons, what they're going to look like. Standard, they are just arrows. You could have this be whatever you want. You type in next. You could change this to back if you wanted to. You can add progress bars with text or no text. I really like the progress bars at the bottom so they're not distracting for the surveyor. You could limit questions per page if you didn't want to add page breaks to your survey. You can add headers and footers. We're going to touch on headers here in a minute, but for now, we're going to skip past it until we go through the rest of these tabs. Style allows you to adjust the primary color, which is the option someone selects. So for example, if I had this red color, when they click on an option, it highlights in red. The secondary color is going to be your next and back buttons. You can set default fonts. You can choose the foreground contrast to be like, make it super sharp or more dim. I really like it to be high contrast. I think it looks very clean. On the free account, you cannot do any custom CSS. Motion allows you to, just like in PowerPoint, transition your pages. You can do a slide, a fade, or a flip. I really like to slide. The other two look like a little much when you're moving between pages. You can autofocus. So if you're on a question, it will focus on it. You can see how it turns on and off as you go from page to page. I really like the auto advance on questions options. I like to select all 3 of these options here. So as people answer questions, it will take them on to the next question and so on. If I was going to the next page here, My question types aren't really good for showing how this works. Anyways, if you had a like single multiple choice answer question on a page and they clicked an option, it would just take them to the next page. Logo, unfortunately, on a free account, it does not let you do a logo. Okay, so there is a way around that. What I do to get around that feature is I go here to the general page, and I go to your header, press edit. I like to normally center my logo on my page. You could have it on the left and right as well. And then you'd click this little insert graphic button. You can add a new graphic. I've already added one. It's the Qualtrics logo. That's really big. I don't like that. I'm going to right click on it, image properties. I'm going to make this more like 100 width. This lock feature means it will change the height in accordance with the width. Press OK. Press save. Now I've got a header on every one of my pages that includes my logo. Fun little workaround. On the background, the theme I have allows me to do the photo. Normally it does not though. Okay, you can only do color generally when you are setting these things up, unless you're using one of their pre-built themes. The background color will be back here. If you don't have the container on, it'll go right on the color. I like to keep things clean, keep it on the white option. But if you don't, if you want to have a crazy color there, you can, and you can add the white container. Depending on their screen size, they may or may not see any of your background color though. Now, when you're doing your branding, you can toggle between the desktop view and the mobile device view. Show you what it's going to look like on a mobile device. That's it. The most important thing here is you press apply when you're all done. Otherwise, it's not going to save your branding. Next, we have survey options. In survey options, this part right here is pretty cool. It will adjust what your window is going to say. For example, it says edit survey here. If you're to change this, when someone enters your survey, it would say that up there in the bar. Survey description is for if you're going to be sharing it on social media, you can use that, or if people can search it on the internet, they'd be able to see that as well. Responses, this is where you can turn the back button on and off. You can allow respondents to finish later, and then you can also say, hey, after a certain period of time, if someone takes part of the survey, do I want to record that partial response or delete it after a certain time frame? You can also clarify when you want surveys to be active. Security allows you to be able to let anyone receive a survey with the anonymous link in the distributions, which we'll go over in a later video on how to distribute surveys. Probably be the next one I make. Password protection, you could add a password to the survey, and so you could give out that link to people and provide them with the password as well to access. Prevent indexing, please always turn that on. With a free account, you are limited to 500 responses. If you do not have this on, bots on the internet and spiders could go through your survey and eat up all your responses pretty quickly. Post survey, this allows you to create little workflows that could send out thank you emails, or if someone comes to a link that they've already taken the survey for, what is the message going to say? That's like, you've already completed the survey. They have a pretty good one that's already set up. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would stick with that, honestly. Scoring is important on a free account because your questions that are on a scale like this, the only way to get the numbers to work is you actually do have to create a score for it. To do that, you'd go to scoring options here, and you could name this like your CSAT, for example, if it's a CSAT question. Press save. Now it's going to create a CSAT score of 1 to 5 there. If it was backwards, you'd need to come in here and click the numbers and update them. On your free account, you can not use quotas. You don't have them. and you also do not have translations. At a future point, if you are not using a free account, if you're a paid customer of Qualtrics, I'll be creating a video on how to use these pages as well. Anyways, thanks for joining, everyone. This has been a longer video than I normally do, but I hope you have found this valuable, and I hope you please subscribe and come back for more videos. I am making a whole series on how to use this free account. My next one should be how to use the distributions tab. How do you send out your surveys? And then how do you then later analyze your data through results and reports?